Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you're new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
Which deals with all the advanced compensation stuff here. We will be starting with the basic framework of compensation. We'll be knowing here the advanced compensation terminology and the kind of rules that we'll be having here. We'll be just understanding that, and then from there we'll be getting into merit process, merit plan process. We'll be creating some of the merit plans, and we'll be not doing all this in a regular compensation. A regular compensation will be dealing with the grades profiles, compensation package that you'll be giving to employee, and plans like salary plan, hourly plan will be there. Those things will be covered in regular compensation. But advanced compensation is little advanced. We will be creating stock plans, merit plans, and will be creating bonus. We'll be initiating that bonus to employee, initiating the merit process. All those things will be covering in advanced compensation, which covers with the configuration of the merit plans and security related to that, and compensating employees with all the merit that will be configuring. And then we'll be getting into the concept called eligibility, waiting period, and time proration rule, where we'll be creating a proration rule based on employees' hire date and all. We'll be defining that and we'll be knowing some information on that one. And then we have some kind of matrix here. We'll be creating matrix and we'll be knowing how this matrix will be. The compensation matrix will be created. We'll be knowing that information here, and then we'll be getting into kind of bonus plans. What kind of bonus plans are available, and what could be a kind of eligibility rules for those benefit plans, and all we'll be seeing there. And we'll be getting some understanding of, because every year as part of your annual review process, we'll be going into bonus plan. You'll be assigning some bonus to the employees. That will be part of your annual compensation review process. How to create those benefit plans and how to assign those benefit plans and all. We'll be seeing that in bonus plan and stock also. This depends upon organization to organization. Not every organization will be having stocks and all. These are all the concepts specifically on advanced compensation, but if you wanted to include a basic compensation also, I'll be including that. Probably 1 or 2 sessions or not 2. One session, 1 or 2 sessions may get extended if we add that one. But the total course duration that we have designed, considering the complete topics that we have listed here, is for around 15 hours. I can say 2.5 weeks or max. I know if we are discussing something additionally other than compensation, probably we may go for 3 weeks max. That covers complete advanced compensation, and I can also include few of regular compensation like packages and all. How do we create them? How do we assign eligibility rules? How do we assign package grades and all? We'll be seeing regular compensation. I'll also include them. But advanced compensation is core concept. And not everyone will be looking at advanced compensation, because core compensation team will be looking at advanced compensation because they are the people who will be dealing with core configuration related to stocks, related to bonus, and related to any kind of merit plans and all of that. They are the people who will be getting this advanced compensation knowledge and they'll be implementing in their organization. That is the reason why as per the demand that we have in advanced compensation area and whatever we are seeing the business requirements that comes with the advanced compensation area. The mostly used advanced compensation process here is consolidated merit process. As part of your annual review process, every year you will be undergoing annual review process. There you need to perform a lot of bonus plan changes, initiating compensation process and everything you'll be doing there. And whatever other process like bonus, merit stocks and all, you'll be consolidating all those things in merit process and you'll be releasing those to employees. That is the last concept called consolidated merit process is a very important one which deals though you're learning all those things. These are kind of creations only. Like bonus planning, you'll be creating, and stock planning, you'll be creating. Whatever you're creating in previous sessions, whatever you're learning here, you'll be consolidating all those plans and initiating a kind of complete process and publishing that process to employees that their employees will be really getting their new compensation, revised salary, and revised bonus amount that we are allocating. That will be as part of your consolidated merit process, which we'll be doing in advanced compensation. These are the kind of concepts that we have in advanced compensation and which are generally used both for total rewards as well as for advanced compensation setups and all. Total rewards mostly deal with all the kind of bonus or the kind of benefits that we are providing to the employee. And that deals with kind of typical configurations. We have total rewards, business object in the workday. That provides you a list of all the benefits that we are providing to employee and based on the configuration also that compensation team will be performing. Total rewards object will be capturing that information. And if that needs to be reported, a report has to be created. If that needs to be reported, has to be converted into a statement that employee should be able to access the statement should be created. You're seeing my screen. I think you already know all these things, but I'll just give you a walkthrough and then go for configuring this part. Compensation grade. I think you may be knowing this, which provides directions regarding to the pay range. Whenever you're assigning compensation grade to any of the job profile or any of the package, which means that you're defining a pay range for the position. Let's say Workday developer is there, Workday developer. While you're getting a compensation grade for that Workday developer role, you're defining pay range. That compensation range should be between 15 to 20 lakhs. Whenever you assign this compensation creator a job profile, that recruiter who's hiring a candidate for Workday developer position will be dealing with a compensation which should be in the range of 15 to 20 lakhs. Nothing below that and nothing above that. We'll be defining a compensation grade of such kind which provides information regards to the pay range and compensation plan. You may be knowing the salary plan, hourly plan, merit plan, bonus plan, alliance plan. There are different kind of plans that we have in compensation. We'll be creating those plans and as how we know we wanted to restrict to this job profile or this supervisor organization or this management level. We'll be defining those plans to that particular group. Compensation plans are nothing but which provides information of different pay components that we have in the system. And compensation package. Compensation package is nothing but combination of compensation grades and plans. The group of compensation grades and plans are combined, the term that can be called as the compensation package, which groups both the compensation grades and packages will form a compensation package. And for example, if you see our case, also when our compensation package is being offered, it is a mixture of different items. One is some organizations may be providing a bonus plan. Some organization may be providing kind of a stock plan as part of your compensation package, and some organizations may be providing some kind of alliance plan. You'll be getting this kind of alliance as part of your compensation every month based on your job grade and all. We'll be defining such kind of packages. And this package is nothing but which is a group of compensation grade and plans. How does it feel to be able to see compensation of the entire company? Entire company. Entire company, in the sense you mean to say for any top level, you mean to say CEO or what is yes, yes. You should be having access, I think. You can go to employee profile. If you go to employee profile, no, I know how to see it. I'll see it in the overview and the overview pay package. I'm asking you what they being in this field. How does it feel? We'll be getting couple of requests. Though I'm not part of compensation team, but whenever I develop a total reward statement or compensation annual review statement, we'll be getting a lot of. For CEO, there has to be kind of different stocks and statement has statement. Design has to be different for executive leadership team kind of things. I'll be getting a request and that's a kind of normal thing for us. Whenever we deal with such cases will be, but the compensation statement, whatever we are designing, has to be confidential. And whenever we are working on this kind of projects, we are restricted our screen to be shown to others. Will not be showing our screen because that deals with complete organization compensation. Will be designing compensation statement based on the levels. Let's say we have 78 to 99, 90 to 100 and CEO. For each level of group, the statement has to be populated in different way with the components that they are intended to get. Not every group will be having same kind of component. Some executive leadership team may have in a different stock component called performance stock, and low level team like vice president level will be getting a kind of restricted stock. Like that in a different groups will be having different components and accordingly the statement will be populated with different design. Whenever we are dealing with such kind of in a huge confidential information, we are informed or we are instructed that our confidential information should not be shown to any of the team members. And there's a kind of will be signing some kind of document to them, PDR's SA. I think some kind of legal authentication document will be signing and will be getting into this project because that deals with a lot of sensitive information. And will be working with compensation team closely. Compensation team will be performing core configurations and or related to all the changes and all but my responsibility is to report whatever configuration that they are doing, report accurately and whatever I've reported to be presented in the statement, what I'll be designing that at the end of the year when annual review process has been released to employees, they'll be able to access their statement. Seeing what are all the revised salary that they're getting, what are all the additional components that they've got as part of promotion. All those things they'll be able to see in that compensation review statement. And if there are any, there won't be any kind of mismatches. But If there are any kind of issues are there, we'll be supporting those users to correct those components. But even some organizations will be maintaining some kind of security even if I'm part of Workday development team. I'll be not for compensation part, there will be a kind of restriction. I should be not able to view the compensation of other team member, kind of security restrictions that some organizations will be maintaining. And also kind of specific things like I should be able to view any other employee's compensation, but I should not be able to view my team members' compensation. It's kind of security things also will be configuring that no one from my team will be able to see my compensation, but they should be able to see because they are part of Workday team. They need to support users. They should be able to view the compensation of other team members, but not our team members. I've heard we have Splunk deployed at our place. Basically, it tracks wherever you click. And do you know how to see that report? You mean to say there is a kind of transaction thing we have? Whatever user logs in, user performs anything in Workday tent, we can report that. I'm not aware of Splunk, but we can create a report user, user tracking some data sources there. When you create a report on that data source, whenever user logs into Workday, it will be tracking whatever user will be performing and it will be giving the information that, let's say, compensation tab is there. I'm viewed compensation, viewed basically, generated basically of different type of kind of task. That report will be returning. We have a delivered, I think. Let me show you that data source. We have a data source we can create within Workday only. Splunk is outside of Workday now. I think I've created some reports. That tracks user transactions in Workday. There will be a kind of audit and governance team in every organization. Their job is, to identify all these changes. They will be monitoring all the user activities in Workday. We have a data source called user activity. We'll be creating report with this user activity data source and that will view complete information whatever user performing the data source. If he's going to any other tab, the viewing other employee information, or if he's going to performance tab of other employee, seeing what is the rating that manager has given to that employee. All those activities will be tracked with this data source called user activity. That will give you complete information of that user who has performed that one. Basically, we'll create this for managers. Managers will be asking, can we get a kind of user activity report for my team members that I'll be able to see what they're doing in Workday? Kind of, we'll be giving this to managers as a kind of confidential information, not letting anyone know. Only managers will be accessing this report. They'll be able to see what their team members are doing. Then we'll be using compensation package. And after compensation package, we have eligibility rule. Eligibility rule is nothing, but which specifies compensation grade or ranges used, compensation grades, packages, or compensation plans. You'll be defining this eligibility rule to which source you need to assign this thing. Which group of members you'll be assigning this, which organization you'll be assigning this. In eligibility rule, you'll be specifying eligibility criteria that this group has to be, provided with this compensation grade or, compensation package or compensation plan. You'll be defining that eligibility rule that this compensation plan will be applicable for this country or this plan is applicable for this group or this employee. Kind of eligibility rule that you'll be defining. And accordingly, that configuration will make changes whenever you're releasing compensation. Only those group members will be getting that particular kind of contribution. Eligibility rule makes that kind of difference. You know when you're making changes. And there are certain steps that we'll be seeing in compensation whenever we are creating compensation structure. Eligibility rule is nothing but which will provide you a kind of eligibility criteria for the compensation components you define. Whatever the compensation plan, compensation package, compensation grade, whatever you're defining, there is a kind of eligibility criteria that you'll be defining for all this, to which group this component should be applicable, the kind of rule you'll be defining. And accordingly, that configuration will enable that kind of piece of component. The plan or grade or package will be applicable for those, the eligibility criteria group members. And basically we follow, some kind of steps, the kind of flow whenever we are dealing with the compensation structure. One is the first step. First step comes like define compensation elements. Define compensation elements. Define compensation elements is nothing but where you'll be defining grades, grade profiles, and steps. And second thing is you'll be defining compensation plans. Third is you'll be grouping these elements and plans together to make a compensation package. I can say bundle together. Grades and plans will be bundled together, which makes a compensation package. And fourth step is create eligibility rules who has to be, a targeted members for these compensation packages or any of other components. You'll be defining that through eligibility rule. And fifth is you assign this eligibility rule to compensation components like the eligibility rule, whatever you have defined, that you will be assigning to compensation components. You'll be defining eligibility rule. And there you'll be configuring whatever components that you wanted to assign this eligibility. Assign these components to eligibility rule that you'll be configuring there. Final step is assign comp components to the eligibility rule you have created above. These are the 5 steps you'll typically follow in regular compensation process. Kind of workflow, I can say you have to define a kind of elements and then plans and then make a compensation package and create an eligibility rule. Assign this eligibility rule to the compensation components that you wanted to have as per your organization policy. This is a kind of workflow structure that you'll be following. And there are different attributes that I spoke like. Let me go into one of the profile and show some of the examples. Here you see compensation package. Compensation package is nothing but which is a mixture of grades and plans. You will be creating a compensation package and for a specific group of employees and you'll be assigning that to the kind of a different group. Here you see we've created a non-management compensation package which is assigned to eligibility rule. There is a job family that has been created. We have seen job family, job profile, job family group and all. This compensation package has been assigned to this job family that whatever components that are defined at this compensation package level will be applicable for this job family group where we have defined a kind of eligibility rules. If you come down, you'll see a little more information about compensation grade, which are part of this package, and compensation plan, which are part of this package. Compensation plans for this one. A merit plan information technology, and they've defined a kind of eligibility rule for whatever plans that are there for information technology should be applicable for the organization called information technology. And for finance administration, there is an organization called finance administration. All these plans are configured to become kind of eligible for all these organizations through eligibility rules that we have defined. That's how your compensation structure is built in Workday, where you'll be assigning compensation component based on the eligibility rules and based on your organization would have defined some kind of policy that this job family has to have this compensation component. For that component, you will be defining eligibility rule for that particular job family. That's how you typically create a compensation package at groups and grades and grade profiles. You see here we have a complete compensation package which is tied up with grades and plans, which is a mixture of both. That has made a compensation package. That's how you typically you're part of any kind of configuration team or just you're supporting a company. That only on the configuration function, people will be taking care of all the configurations and you'll be performing any kind of configurations or you'll be dealing with supporting those configurations or enhancing them. Primarily enhancement and then of course little bit support as well. That's a very regular compensation. Probably you'll be playing around with all the assigned compensation plans packages to the employees. If you go to any of the plan, general salary plan, which is assigned as a compensation plan, you can create on your own plan that you wanted to have and assign to any of the employees. You see here, general salary plan has been created and it has been assigned to all employees or nation, all employees. It has been assigned and the compensation element would be a kind of base pay when you check this Apply if T percentage. I prorates based on the number of working hours that employee is working based on that hours. This if T percentage will be tracked, 50% is 100%. The compensation that you have defined for hourly employees will be whatever you have defined. If it is not 100%, if it is 50%, that will be prorated. The checkbox that you'll be checking here, based on number of working hours, the competition will be offered to that employee. There's a reason why you typically select apply if T percentage, if T is nothing, but it calculates number of working hours. And similarly, if you go to any of merit plan, they will also say bonus plan which you're looking for. If you create any kind of plan that is related to merit, you'll be seeing all this process here. You'll be defining eligibility rule, and if an employee has completed kind of 3 months from high date, that employee should be eligible to get that merit plan, should be able to get that merit amount. And we'll be calculating all that time of absence, details and all. Compensation matters is nothing, but you know which targets your compensation to that employee. Basically, most of the customers will be not going with this compensation plan matrix, but they'll be defining a plan eligibility rules, kind of restrictions. If an employee has completed this time, then this employee should be applicable for the merit plan. Kind of all the configurations you'll be making. You'll be providing currency, and the frequency is generally every organization will be having annuals, a merit process yearly, and you'll be specifying yearly annual process. But if you are going for half a league on to do that one. And merit plan profiles, you'll be specifying kind of targets here which will not be, applicable for all the employees. You can say target 2%, which will be for the type 3 cost of living locations. And this depends upon your actual compensation, component that you have defined for your employees, and accordingly you'll be confusing this. Not everyone has to go with this, but it's completely depends upon your compensation policy that you have in your organization. For we'll be creating a lot of merit plans and will be next year, and we'll be making them inactive, and we'll be editing that and making it changes and all those things you'll be seeing here as part of merit plan events. You'll be going here and you'll be seeing when it has been successfully completed. And if there are any kind of cancellations that you need to perform for existing compensation component, you can perform those cancellations by getting into plan events and canceling that event. Particularly that employee will be no longer part of that compensation event. This will happen very rarely unless there are any errors that are happened during this compensation event process. You'll be editing that and you'll be canceling that. That's about merit plan. One of the compensation plan that we have, and we have also a kind of bonus plan. Bonus plan is nothing but a kind of one-time plan that will be offered to the employee. There will be a kind of different bonus types also. This is a kind of plan type as bonus which is offered 10% on employee compensation every year. Every year as part of we call it as a variable pay, and that will be paid. But some organizations will, apart from this bonus, some organizations will be having different special bonus plans. Like recently, we got a kind of COVID alliance kind of COVID bonus plan, which will give a kind of hardship alliance some amount of contribution from employer that you'll be giving, and some kind of fitness reimbursement kind of bonus plan you'll be giving as part of your create a kind of you're allowed to have a kind of fitness reimbursement bonus plan that employer will be providing to you. You can create a lot of benefit plans, bonus plan you'll be creating, and you'll be configuring that in Workday as a kind of, some kind of one-time plan. You can configure all those things, and similarly we have seen for other areas you can configure that to specific eligibility rule, and also you can, if you wanted to define the kind of specific time period for high date, you can also do that one time. And if you wanted to go with the probation rate, if you wanted to perform a kind of probation rate for each of the bonus plan or one time plan, you can. There is a kind of configuration called compound probation rate, which will in the prorate your compensation based on your height at, let's say, for a yearly, or you have defined that, bonus plan has to be 10% or 15% of the time. But employee has joined in the middle of the year, and that has to calculate based on that higher date to the time period you have defined for completing bonus period, and that will calculate number of months or number of hours that employee has worked, and accordingly a specific bonus will be offered to the employee during review process, and that you will be specifying. And but how can you show that? How the prorated will be creating all those things whenever you're creating a compensation plan. There is a checkbox called, FTE percentage or prorate checkbox will be there. We'll be checking the checkbox, and that calculates enabling the checkbox, and will be calculating that process. These are something that I wanted to show before I create these things. Stock plan. Not every group of people will be getting a stock defined. It depends upon the job grade that employee is eligible for. We'll be defining that specific. The stock plan for a specific group. Here you see, only if any sales and marketing organizations are eligible to get this stock plan. Not every employee will be getting a stock plan, but they'll be based on their job grade, management level, and their organization. They will be entitled to get that specific. You can see here it is a kind of, a rule that we'll be creating. We'll be specifying organizations, and we'll be giving all those to support their organization who will be part of that company. A stock plan will be getting all those stocks. All these things you're seeing will be creating all these things. Whatever you're seeing here will be creating all these things. We have enough. You're not sure if I start will be able to complete this complete activity. We'll create a little bit to do for today, and probably will continue with other like packages or, in our tomorrow session. Not only if we start, I think this is a huge activity. We don't want to break this one. We'll start with the eligibility rule as a compensation administrator as part of compensation team. You'll create some compensation rules, where you'll be defining that this compensation will be eligible for this group of members. That kind of eligible to that you will be creating. We'll be creating some compensation rules now. And we'll see to proceed with the other compensation configurations in our tomorrow session. The task to create compensation eligibility rule is create compensation eligibility. you'll be defining some kind of description. Let's say you wanted to restrict this to specific organizations. ABU Vice President, whatever you know the eligibility rule that you're defining. If you wanted to specify to specific the supervisor organization or specific job level team members, you'll be specifying just to identify easily whenever you're configuring this to be components. Now I'll be giving kind of the supervisor organization. I'll be giving comp eligibility and choose rule organization. I'm creating one eligible table for the organization who is managing as a director for tax team. Just to identify easily, but naming convention, probably according to your organization, naming convention standards you can follow. Just to identify easily, I've created an eligibility rule for the organization who is managing as a direct tax. I've just given that kind of name here. And if you go to actual fields you can give here, you'll be selecting those organizations. Whatever organization that you wanted to have, there will be a lot of screens. That will be going for the same kind of configurations. Just you need to follow the steps on each screen that we are doing. I've selected this one where I will be selecting the actual organization that I wanted to have. I've created one of the organization. Where are these guys? This guy is holding this organization whose job profile is something related to taxation, indirect, indirectory. There is a reason why, just to identify whatever eligibility rule that I'm creating, I have defined. For this organization, I'm creating this eligibility rule which will be applicable for this organization, where all these are the members of this organization. I'll be specifying this organization here. I'll just specify it. Now, once you define this eligibility rule, you can submit this one just to have your eligibility rule created. I'll be just saving it somewhere. And now I have eligibility rule created. Now, if I wanted to add anything or create one more eligible to do based on the managers, now we've created based on the organizations. Now, let's say if I wanted to assign based on the management levels, like let's say executive team or in a CEO of the company or executive vice president of the company, the same eligibility rule. How do you create same task? Create compensation eligibility rule. Comp eligibility rule. For managers and above management level, kind of eligibility rule that you have named it for all the managers and above management levels, you're creating this one. And in the field of eligibility rule, you'll be selecting that management level. You have selected management level, and there you will be selecting what are all the management levels should be applicable for this eligibility rule. And I can see board of directors and CEO of the company, vice president, director. Manage. These are the groups who will be eligible for that particular compensation plan or compensation package. That's how we typically define, or if you wanted to also restrict to only yes, for all these management level people who belongs to only us should be applicable for this kind of eligibility rules. What do you do to the same condition? You'll add one more row. You'll add one more row and they'll just give a country. Here you'll be satisfying if you wanted to restrict to any specific country like us and all. Here, once you define the country people of this management level, people who belongs to board of directors team and the CEO, vice president and director manager of these roles who belongs to us should be applicable for this kind of eligibility rule that you're defining. I'll save this. That's when we are bundling everything together. We'll be using this competition eligibility rules, and now we have eligible to rule that we have created where we have restricted some of the things for a specific group of people in a specific organization. Now let's define a kind of grade, compensation grade. If you wanted to have any particular number of segments that you wanted to populate in compensation grade, you can give by default. Tonight we'll be populating for 4 segments like, let's say 15 to 20 lakhs is a kind of grade that you are planning. What is the lower range and what is the mid range? What is the top range that you wanted to specify in the train? You know you can give such kind of segments that you wanted to populate. And also, if you wanted to say, I was saying you that whenever you're creating compensation grade, if you check the checkbox called grade profiles, that will be showing gratitude, that will be showing grade profiles when you get into to compensation grade screen. You know your compensation grade screen will be populating once you submit that one. If you once you have a compensation grade that is created and in future, and if you wanted to inactivate that one, you can check this checkbox that will get inactivated. And before you do inactivate whatever grade that you already know triggered for a group of team members, you need to remove that one and make this inactive. I mean, this is straightforward. Whatever eligibility rule that we have created is just, assigning a specific group of members or organizations to whom you wanted to restrict. Once you have all the configurations, we'll be assigning this compensation package where you'll be calling all those things and you'll be assigning to different packages. Single package that whatever you're creating, compensation grade eligibility rules will be applicable for those group of members. If you feel that this is loading, probably we can stop it here. If you feel that it is giving too much information for you, probably we can stop it and we can continue in our next session. If you're feeling something, load, I think we should stop now. I think this is fine. Then what we'll do is we have created 2 eligibility rules now. What we'll do in our upcoming session is we'll create a compensation grade. We'll create a one composition plan, either field plan, field lens plan, or any of the specific lens plan. And once we have all the components ready, we'll be creating one compensation package with whatever in the eligibility rules that we have created will be applicable for those team members. Just, make note that we have created 2 eligibility rules and we'll be proceeding with our compensation grades, plans, and packages. And finally, we'll bundle everything together and make it as a kind of, compensation, whole compensation package which can be assigned to employee. The instance I have in your instance, is it same or different? I don't know what instance you have. Let me see. I have a tenant called iadmin. TPT2 is tenant name I have. You're having the same name. Let me just see. Since I had no activity, it loved me out. I think that's a different type video. but I think you can do the same steps. Whatever tasks that I'm doing, I think the tenant is same, but the configurations are same. You'll be having the same options. Whatever I'm getting now, these are delivered things. We are not creating a kind of custom configurations and all. All these are in a delivered task that is provided by Workday. You should be seeing the same task even in your tenant as well. For now, we know what you can do is you can just try to create eligibility rule that we have discussed, that I have admin access or what. If you go to this thing profile, I'm there. I'm on the profile. If you go to actions, assign, we go to security profile, view security groups. View security groups are there. If you click on the review security group, you'll be seeing what are all the security that is assigned for you. And if you wanted to know whether you have provided with the compensation administrator access, you can just filter with security group. I see that. Comp admin. I see. You see your compensation. I don't have to decide when I think I have comp admin. You'll be seeing compensation administrator. If it is not there, you can check this one. That will be filtered, showing that what are all the access you have ready to compensation. You're assigned with unconstrained security group. Unconstrained is nothing but which provides unlimited access if you are provided with the constrained group, which provides limited access. And if you wanted to assign any kind of security group that you don't have, similarly as how we know we have gone. There is a task called Assign User-Based Security Groups in the same security profile if you go. If you wanted to assign any kind of security, I'm not sure whether they have provided access to assign security administrator, but you're allowed to assign any kind of security group. Assign User-Based Security Group is there. Click on this one. You're saying System Administrator, which is nothing but a security administrator. Already assigned. This is the kind of in a delivered security that is provided by Workday. If this is assigned to you, you can make any kind of security changes in Workday. Go ahead. Good then, we'll catch up again tomorrow and just try to create the compensation. Just go to compensation eligibility rule task. This assign this to one of the organization that you are aware of and probably can pick any of the existing organization. Or if you know how to create organization, just create that organization and pick that organization in the eligibility rule. And one more thing, just select the management levels that we have, which is manager and above. From manager, whatever you see, the upper level management will pick those. I think we should be ready with eligibility rules. Then, whatever we'll be creating, grades, packages, and all, we'll be assigning the eligibility rules to those packages in our tomorrow's session. Now, we'll try to create compensation grades. Grades are nothing but which will define the range of an employee. What is the range that you're offering to that particular position that you'll be defining in the grade and also the grade profile. Grade profile and grades are both same, but grade profile are specific to localization. You'll specify whatever grade that you are defining. Pay range that you are defining should be applicable for this country. should be applicable for this group. You'll be defining that compensation grade, grade profile. Grades and grade profiles are interlinked. When you're creating a grade system, we'll ask you, you wanted to have grade profile to be selected for this grade. If you check the checkbox called a grade profile, you'll be able to perform any kind of localizations to the grade profile. In grade, you'll be specifying actual the pay range. Basically, the grade profile will be specifying the localization. Whichever now, let's say if you're creating one grade profile, one grade, where there are no multiple profiles in it, multiple pay ranges for each country that you are defining. You cannot do that in grade. You can have that pay ranges for different countries or different group of people in grade profiles. Grade profile is specifically for localization. Now we know if you see the conveyor, the screen, what I'm sharing. I've selected grade profiles. If you come here, you'll be seeing the grades and all. If you wanted to define eligibility rule at grade, you can define whatever eligibility rule that you wanted to have. But if you go to grade profiles, you can define multiple profiles here. You can add multiple profiles. You can define for each profile and you can define the eligibility rule and like that. You know you can add multiple grade profiles to each grade and that profile will be applicable for that particular local country. If you're specifying for, let's say, I think you know we'll be creating that now. We'll see how it works. This page, generally, it will be standard or base pay. Now, if I go to compensation period here, if I'm not specifying anything here, I'm not specifying and defining an eligibility rule. If I wanted to specify whatever pay range that I'm specifying in grade profile, I need to specify that eligibility criteria. But if you don't want to use grade profiles before you create grade, you know you need to uncheck that grade profile checkbox that you'll be specifying only grade. Now since I wanted to have multiple eligibility rules to these grade profiles, I'm creating grade profiles where I'll be having, for, let's say for India, for US, and for other country, I'll be specifying a grade profile with a different pay range. And now when I'm attaching this to any other organization, people who are part of that particular country, India or the US, whatever in a grade profile that I'm specifying here will be applicable for them. I say now I'm creating a grade 4 for Philippines. Your country should be Philippines. And currency should be that particular country's currency. It depends upon your the compensation payment requirement. Whenever you wanted to disperse this, you can specify, and here you'll be specifying. You'll need to check the checkbox to perform a kind of calculation on the segment based. Let's say if I wanted to give here 3000, now I have a great profile. Now I have great created for Philippines and in India. This tenant is a little slow today. I did not specify pay range for India. I'm specifying. For India, the compensation period that I've defined is 50 to 90. or any of the eligibility rules that we have created between manager and management and above level or a supervisory organization. We have created eligibility rights to these eligibility rules. Whenever we are assigning this compensation grade, people who are part of India, people who are part of that particular supervisory organization, whatever we have defined will be applicable for this period that we have defined. Whenever you're creating a job profile, you have an option to select a job level there. Job level and job classification. For each job profile that you'll be creating, you'll be selecting a job level. Based on that job level, whenever you're creating, you'll be assigning the compensation different compensation grades. If you go to employee profile, you'll be seeing job profile. Now, if I go to this employee profile, if you go to job details, you see job profile is their tax account. If I click on this one, it will drill down into more details where you can see the compensation part. This is not us, and we'll take one more actual employee. Whatever you'll be assigning a job profile, the grade profile that we're creating, we'll be attaching a job profile and you'll be seeing there. If I go to Julie Bowles, basically, whenever we are creating a job profile, we'll be getting all the compensation grade information and all of that particular job profile. We'll attach that to particular job profile whenever we are creating. You see here, the compensation grade has been assigned to this job profile and the eligibility rules has been defined. Now we have created a grade. Now we'll see how we know we can order the greater compensation grade I believe we've created. We'll create compensation plan of. Sorry. Each plan will be having different name. If you're getting a salary plan, here in a few things that you need to note, here is whenever you're creating any plan, be it salary, be it merit, be it stock, be it bonus, everything you know will be based on, I know, the apply if the percentage will be there. If you're selecting this person to select this apply if the percentage based on employee joining date and you know whatever the standard time that you would have given for payment. This will be this checkbox and will be enabled to calculate based on working number of working hours that employee has made. But of working hours or 8 hours per day. And I've joined in the middle of month and for that 15 days, whatever, number of work, number of hours that I would have worked, I'll be getting in a kind of compensation for the salary plan. Whatever salary plan that I'm creating, that will be calculated based on the 50%. If the percentage is nothing but full-time, equivalent percentage. Based on number of hours that employee will be working, your salary plan will be calculated and it will be assigned to that one. And the other important thing that you need to know is exclude from merit process. Every organization will be having a certain time periods. You know that employees should be eligible for merit process. If employee has joined before June, they will be eligible for annual compensation review process. That is coming up in the month of October. If employee has joined after June, employee will not be eligible for the review process. Such kind of things, say every organization will be having. If you're setting up a salary plan, you have an employee who will be checking this one. You will be checking this one or you will be unchecking this one. For every year, and I will be creating a review process template. Annual review process template for 2022, annual review process template for 2021. When I'm creating this template, I'll be defining when hire date is greater than I know June, then not eligible kind of row I'll be defining. When I'm creating the 2022 for that particular arena, I'll be defining people who are part of earlier, periodical, they should be all coming eligible for this review process. It's completely no review process template. You'll be defining if employee is not becoming eligible for current annual review process. Definitely, they will be become eligible for next year annual review process. That has to. Obviously, they have to write. In compensation review process, will be defining certain time period for the current year. Based on that current year, employees will be becoming eligible for that particular annual review process period. If you're doing this one and this is a play, this will be not calculated based on players 100%. Whatever the salary plan that you are giving, amount you'll be specifying here, whatever amount you'll be specifying under salary plan, that will be 100% applicable irrespective of FT. Here, probably I'll take the eligibility rule that I've created yesterday to this organization, that whatever salary plan that I'm defining will be applicable for this organization. All this will need to be attached at a compensation package that I'm noting down, and the next comes will create one more plan like alliance plan. Every organization will be having some kind of alliances, will be offering to employees like fuel alliance, communication alliance kind of things. Similarly, here also you'll be having same options that we have seen, and when you wanted to have your alliance plan to be reimbursable based on the submissions that employee will be making, you'll be checking this checkbox. When you check this checkbox, these are reimbursable amounts. The employee will be providing some kind of proof, to let's say fuel elements is there. They have to provide a kind of fuel receipts in order to reimburse their expenses and all. Such kind of a following plan is reimbursable. You'll be selecting this one. But if it is not reimbursable, if just general pay, you'll be not selecting this one and you'll be selecting whatever amount based plan that you wanted to give. You'll be selecting. If it is amount based plan, you'll be selecting, and if it is a percentage on your compensation, it will be selecting this one. If there is a specific unit other than compensation out of your compensation, if you're specifying any kind of specific amount, you'll be specifying unit based plan. But I'm selecting a kind of amount based plan where I'll be defining some specific amount for this compensation for this alliance. Here also, you have the same options what we have seen here. Let's compensate. The element would be different. Here, we'll be selecting alliance. Here, probably the eligible detail that we have defined here. This will be creating the plans, compensation plans like that. We have a number of plans, stock plan, merit plan, and all you'll be defining like this, and you'll be specifying whatever eligibility rule that you wanted to have that particular plan should be applicable for. You'll be specifying. Now we have eligibility rule. Now we have a compensation plan created. What is our next step? As part of the process that we have discussed, a compensation package has to be created, which groups both the grades and plans. Whatever we have created, that should be, a compensation plan will be mixing up the things. This is a kind of way you'll be performing both whatever you have created in earlier steps, the eligibility rules, the compensation grades, plans, and all. You'll be combining all this together to make a compensation package. This company's package be applicable for complete organization. People who are getting hired under this organization should be applicable for this or this complete organization, whatever eligibility rule that we are giving here. Whenever you are offering this compensation package to all the employees, probably not. I mean, I would have taken, one organization which would have created, but in real time scenarios, you'll be specifying, let's say, for attitude, for executive leadership team, you have created one organization, and whatever the plans that you have defined for the specific to leadership team and grades that you have defined specific to leadership team, you'll be giving them a kind of separate package and you'll be attaching here. Whenever you're attaching plans here, whatever eligibility rules that you have defined when you are a compensate, when you are creating plans, that will be shown here. Whatever eligibility rule that you have defined here, it will be showing there. The moment you set up the plan, automatically whatever eligibility rules that you have defined for these plans will be populated here. Now you're defining a compensation package which is applicable for the entire organization. And for the entire organization, probably people may be from India, people may be from, UK people from maybe different countries for each country. You've defined specific pay range, which you have defined in compensation grade when you've created and also similarly plans. You have defined a specific plan, and for each plan you have defined which who has to be eligible for this one. And now when you click on this, you'll be able to submit package name already. Name already exists. Now this compensation package has been created whenever you're hiring an employee. Whenever you're hiring an employee from anywhere from that particular country where you have defined a compensation grade and plans for the particular employees, you will be offering this compensation package to that team member. This is compensation team will be taking care as part of hiring process. Once you know HR, people in share the hiring process. For any candidate as per business process routing process, there will be a step called proposed compensation. Business process step in hiring when hiring an employee that will send a kind of notification that this employee is joining with this job profile, with this job code, and the company has to be proposed for this employee. Compensation. Administrator will be reviewing what compensation range or what grade that has been defined for this employee. Administrator will be attaching that particular compensation package to that particular employee. That the compensation, a complete mixture of the grades and plans will be provided to that particular employee, and whatever alliances that you assign there based on the eligibility rule, you will be giving that to employee based on the eligibility rule that you have defined. That's how we typically configure the compensation package. Compensation package is a kind of, solid kind of in a group which mixtures both plans and groups and offers to the employee. That is one thing. This is what we have completely in regular compensation. And probably I would have created a great profiles. I know there's a kind of sample things, but in real time, you'll be getting actual requirements from your compensation team. This is the job profile with whom I know this has to be, this package has to be, this compensation grade has to be attached. And when recruiter is taking that with hiring process, that particular grade pay range that would have defined in grade will be offered to that employee. And similarly, a package, whatever we have created will be attached to that employee compensation package. If you go to employee profile, we have seen this. I go to Julie Boyle's compensation, a package will be offered to this employee management compensation change. This was the package that has been created. If you see here, whatever eligibility rule that we have defined has been created here for this specific organization. And similar to come down whatever compensation grades that employee is applicable for. We have created similar as how we know we have created those compensation grades has been assigned here. And similarly plans, whatever compensation plans are part of this employee is a part of, alliance plan and merit plan. Other plans, whatever stock plan, everything based on completely organization requirement, that particular eligibility rule would have defined and would have been attached to that particular package. That's how we typically configure compensation package to employee profile. When you get a chance to edit any kind of compensation packages, changing the eligibility rules, it typically need to access this compensation package and edit that one. And if you wanted to make changes, you can edit. And if you wanted to change any kind of rules to that one, and you can make those changes. That is how we know you'll play around with regular compensation. There are only four kind of changes that you will be doing, or four kind of creations that you'll be performing. One is great with the attachment of profiles, and the other one is a compensation plan. The other one is package. Once you have the package, you'll be defining the eligibility rule. And the last step is you'll be assigning this eligibility rule to the compensation components. These are all the 5 steps. You know that you'll be performing an entire regular compensation process. But when it comes to enhancements, you'll be editing the same. And when you want it to create, you'll be creating the same. Everything will be within these 5 only. These are all the 5 steps. You know that you'll be compensation flow. You'll be defining grades. You'll be having plans, and you'll be grouping both grades and plans together to make a compensation package and whatever eligibility rule that you have defined, either in an initial step or after. Also, once you define the grades and plans, you can define eligibility rule based on the package that you have defined. And then once you have the eligibility rule, you'll be assigning this eligibility rule to the components that you have created. Which component has to be under the eligibility rule you'll be defining. Anything related to regular compensation part, you will be within these 5 steps only. Other than these 5 steps, you'll be not getting. Probably we would have created 2 plans. One is a salary plan and the other one is an alliance plan. Similarly, there could be another plan called merit plan or stock plan. Only plan would be different, but steps and defining eligibility rules will be within these 5 steps, within this flow only. You'll not have any other flow related to regular compensation. But advanced compensation is a little different, which will not follow this flow. Today, I will be covering something on compensation framework and general terminology, what we have in advanced compensation. I think the eligibility rules will be part of this session, but I think eligibility rules, when we have created our core compensation, we have created multiple eligibility rules. I think that could be the same, but I think we will be creating one or more eligibility rules, but the same steps. What we have created will be the same, and we will see how these rules can be utilized in our further sessions with many plans and other things. We will just start with compensation framework today and discuss something on the terminologies that we have in regards to advanced compensation. If you are part of compensation team and if you are a compensation administrator or compensation partner or auditor, you will have a kind of responsibility to perform core compensation and advanced compensation configurations to deploy those things into Workday environment. And once you deploy, you will continue to maintain the Workday compensation structure. A strong understanding of how compensation is designed and managed is required here. The compensation structure is broken into 2 components. One is core compensation. The other one is advanced compensation. Core compensation. Whatever we have seen, grades, grade profiles, eligibility rules, packages, and defining compensation plans will be part of core compensation, and advanced compensation will include merit bonus, stock plans, as well as their related process. That we will be seeing in advanced compensation. There are two structures to kind of breakouts in compensation. One is core compensation, the other one is advanced compensation. And when you talk specifically about advanced compensation, compensation generally in Workday, which is typically used to track the compensation at both enterprise wide and also individual worker level. Organization level, you will be able to track all the compensation review process. You will be assigning compensation pools to individual manager, whatever as part of your review process, whatever compensation range that they wanted to. A lot to employees between the pool that they are assigned with. They will be taking a decision on that one. And also at individual worker level, they can take decision related to compensation. Workday compensation is broken into, as I said, core and advanced and overall compensation structure that consists of a compensation grades plans which are grouped together to make a compensation package. And advanced compensation is typically, encompasses all the configuration and the processing of stocks, bonus, and merit plans. And to just give you a kind of a brief flow chart of compensation package, the structure of it can be built. Grades, grade profiles. Similarly, plans, and from here, we'll be getting into compensation elements where you'll be seeing something related to advanced compensation. Like compensation matrix, we'll be discussing in detail about these components. What is compensation matrix? This is the first step of advanced compensation and waiting periods. Have you heard anything? Compensation matrix, waiting periods, and time proration. Have you heard these terms in your current responsibility? I think I have heard waiting period. I have heard time proration. Compensation matrix is it same as performance matrix, that for example ratings if you get net exceed, is that the same or different? No. Compensation matrix is generally used by stock bonus and merit plans to determine an employee pay increase based on what you said. Will partially it will relate? But it will not. Complete compensation, but it will relate to stock bonus and merit plans. Depends upon, the employee performance rating, retention rating, eligibility rule, salary range, and other criteria. All these things will be part of the compensation matrix. It includes basically performance management. That's what you're telling me. In one of the part I can say even performance rating will want also retention rating and the eligibility rule, salary range, quartile, and other criteria based on your business needs. It's mixture of these things which are used in stock bonus and merit plans, and the time duration and presenting scorecard. All these are components of advanced compensation plan, modified scorecard, and rounding rule. All these are waiting period compensation, matrix time progression, funding scorecard, modify scorecard, and rounding rules are elements of advanced compensation. We will discuss in detail about each of these components, and we will generally talk about general terminologies that will be frequently hearing in advanced compensation. The compensation matrix, I think we just discussed. It's nothing but based on your performance rating, your retention rating, and the eligibility rules that are defined in core compensation and salary range, and any other criteria which are typically used in stock plan, bonus plan, and merit plan. And similarly, waiting period. A waiting period is nothing, but this is also used by bonus and merit plan to determine when employee is eligible to participate in the plan. Determines when employee is eligible to participate in the plan. Probably. Whatever I will be noting here, I will share this information to you instead of documenting step by step. I think this will work for you. I will just take it as a reference. Waiting period is just a kind of eligibility criteria where it specifies when employee will be eligible to participate in the plan. And similarly, when you talk about time duration, there will be multiple rules here. A set of rules that determines the duration of the pool or in a kind of target amounts employee receive in merit process or in a bonus process. I can say a set of rules that are used to determine when employee will be eligible to receive a merit and the bonus process. And scorecards. Whatever another funding scorecard and a modified scorecard will typically call it as a scorecard. Scorecard is nothing but a kind of wish lists, goals, weights used to evaluate in a company performance, individual performance, or in a divisional performance as part of in a bonus process. All this funding, company funding scorecard and plan modified scorecard, which what determines or evaluate. I can say evaluates company and individual work performance as part of, you know, review process, or in you can say merit process as part of merit process. A scorecard is nothing but a which evaluates this one both in a company funding scorecard and plan modified scorecard. Each one of one. One evaluates company performance and the other one will evaluate individual work performance as part of merit process. When you say something scorecard configuration, you typically define that evaluates the performance of company and performance of an employee as part of merit process. Typically, you will be doing that process, when you're going for merit kind of, configuration partner. And rounding rule is nothing but you will be rounding the figure, whatever, the pool that you are assigning to organization or the pool that you are defining for individual team member and all. You will be rounding that particular component and get that component assigned to employee when they're configuring compensation partner. Advanced compensation is comprises with three general components which we have discussed. One is stock plan. Stock plan. Bonus. The one is merit plan. Under stock plan, you'll see a kind of compensation matrix, comp matrix. And a bonus plan. You'll see all the components like comp matrix, waiting period scorecard, both company funding scorecard and plan modified scorecard. I'll just specify scorecard. When I see scorecard, it's nothing but both company funding scorecard and plan modified scorecard. And the last one is time duration. Bonus plan will be a mixture of all these things. Proration and when coming to merit plan. Here, only I will see comp matrix and waiting period. Amit, how would you define comp matrix if you have to write? A comp matrix is nothing, but which we said like a mixture of what you say, stock plans, merit plans, which are used in this. And we can determine when employee pay increase, which is based on overall performance rating of an employee and retention rating and eligibility rule. That we're defining in that matrix where the salary range will be general criteria. In that way, you can define a compensation matrix. We can say like it's nothing but a kind of which is used by a stock plan, bonus plan and merit plan, which will be helpful to determine an employee's pay increase based on their overall performance rating and the retention rating and also the eligibility rule that you will be defining. In that way, now you can define whenever you're performing a kind of configuration, you'll be considering overall performance rating and retention rating of the employee and also whatever eligibility rules that are configured in core compensation. Those are all the things you know that will be coming under compensation matrix, but typically used by stock bonus and merit plan. Only these three plans. Use the base token, merit and bonus to determine workers' increase that's being increased based on performance rating. Eligibility rules. That's typically, I know, define your compensation matrix. And once you have your everything configured, compensation can be assigned to an employee individually or as part of a mass event, such as merit or bonus plan, and generally to establish a kind of eligibility for components of compensation or to automate the assignments of these components to worker compensation. You can create eligibility rules. You can create one compensation eligibility rule. Whatever we have created in our compensation configuration, you can create that eligibility rule which indicates which workers are eligible for which compensation components. That's how we know we have seen. When we're configuring core compensation, we've defined a compensation package in which we've defined eligibility rule. This compensation package should be applicable for specific supervisory organization or people from US with a few management levels. We've defined some kind of eligibility rules. Similarly, you'll be defining those eligibility rules. You'll be defining eligibility rules which defines which workers are eligible for which compensation component. That's how we typically manage with eligibility rules. And in other ways, we can say default compensation can be associated directly to position management or job management, supervisory organization. Whatever you know, when you're hiring an employee, you'll be proposing compensation for that employee. An employee is nothing but who is part of the supervisory organization. You're aware of this. Supervisory organization, when hiring an employee, will be proposing a compensation, and that compensation will be associated directly to the supervisory organization. Probably, if you're a compensation administrator or compensation partner, you'll be getting a kind of whenever employees are getting hired, you'll be getting a kind of notification to propose a compensation. To propose a compensation, you'll be getting a kind of notification that will allow you to configure that particular compensation package to that employee. Default compensation can be associated directly to position management or job management, supervisory organization. We can say in that way, and by using compensation eligibility rule, the compensation components can default into employee compensation during a staffing event such as hire, transfer, promotion, demotion. And whatever rules can also be used by default population eligibility rule for a merit plan and bonus plan, which is different than default target. That's how we typically manage when you're creating eligibility rules. And there are a few things here that you need to understand the steps of establishing compensation structure for your company when you're including Workday Advanced Compensation. We'll discuss in detail about those steps. Those steps are important for you when you go for a defining compensation structure for your company. Comp structure and organization. First one, the first step that you will be doing is you will define frequencies which are used in compensation payroll calculation. Define frequencies, which are typically used in your merit calculations and payroll calculations. And the second step that we'll be performing is we'll define compensation element that makes the link between compensation payroll earnings and the compensation payroll are interlinked. Whatever you know that we are performing in compensation, ultimately that has to go to payroll. That link will be defining here as part of our compensation structure defining. Def- define element. Define account comp element, which will lead. Link compensation and payroll. Payroll, which will help in communicating. Making comp data. That's how you typically the other steps in performing will be creating an element where you will be linking both the compensation payroll. Whatever you are defining in advance compensation that will be flow to your payroll. And once you have everything flowing to payroll, you'll be creating a compensation basis to establish one or more definitions of estimated earnings for a different populations of employees. Different will be having different levels of employees. Each of the employees will be having each level of the employee based on the compensation policy internally. Top level may have in a different earning components like performance plan, stock and restricted stock plan, and long-term incentive plans based on job grades and job levels. Each of the level will be having different pay components rather than in a following the same kind of compensation structure throughout the organization. Most of the organizations know based on job grade, based on the level of the employee. Few, compensation components will be assigned to that employee. As part of our third step in what we'll be doing, we'll be creating a compensation basis that establishes, one or more definitions of estimated earnings for different populations of employees. One or more definitions of earnings for a different group of employees. Once you define the different groups for defining earnings and all the fourth step, you'll be defining a compensation eligibility rule which will be determining the group of employees who are eligible for different compensation plans. This is, I think, this one we have done in regular compensation generally. We'll be creating an eligibility rule. That eligibility rule will be determining the groups of employees who are eligible for different compensation plans. We have done this configuration. When you're defining the compensation structure, this will also play a kind of important role in defining people, in defining eligibility rules that will specify this group of employees are eligible to get this compensation plan, kind of a rule will be defining. Fourth step, will be defining eligibility rule. Define eligibility rule that will allow you to generate compensation plan for specific group of team members, which will typically do eligibility rule. Eligibility rule is nothing but which assigns compensation package or compensation plan or compensation grade to specific group of people based on the eligibility rule that we would have defined, based on location, based on supervisor organization, based on management level. Anything we can specify in the eligibility rule that will allocate the compensation component, whether it can be plan, it can be grade, it can be packaged. Any of these things can be assigned to specific group of people through eligibility rule. That will be one of the important step when you're defining compensation structure. And once you have that eligibility rule, I think you need to have the flow, whatever we discussed in regular compensation. Once you have the eligibility rule, you need to define the compensation grades and then in a defined compensation plans, and then as part of last step, add these plans and add plans, grades and bundle them together into compensation package. This is, all of our core compensation steps, will be coming into picture here. Once you define eligibility rule, I'll be specifying defined comp plans, and comp grades. Once I have comp grades, bundle all this together. That makes comp package. These are all the 6 steps that you'll typically follow whenever you're building a compensation structure in your organization. If someone is asking if there is any acquisition and that has happened, for your company, and you need to define a new compensation structure for the new group of people who are part of that position for time being. For them, you'll be defining what are the frequencies that typically used for these calculations. And once you have the frequencies, you'll be defining those compensation element which will which that particular element will be the core element, which will create a kind of communication between compensation and payroll thing to pass the data that is defined in compensation through the payroll, which will get a kind of pay deductions, pay inputs, whatever will be having as part of payroll. All those things will be happening. The second step, you will be combining compensation and payroll through compensation element that your data will be flown accordingly. Once you have that link created between compensation and payroll, you will be defining a compensation basis which will helpful for you in establishing earnings for different group of people. And then in our compensation structure steps in a comes into picture eligibility rule, grades, plans, and combining all this together to make a compensation package and assign this to any of the team member as part of a merit plan, bonus plan, you'll be getting an advanced compensation. You'll be assigning this entire compensation structure to that particular group of members or individual employee or specific member of that particular organization. You'll be assigning this entire compensation structure once you are ready to configure to employee profile while hiring. That's how typically follow, and other than these conceptual things, whatever we've discussed far, or like compensation, matrix or time period, time provision, and scorecards. Other than these inner conceptual things, there are few basic terminologies. Whenever you get certain skills in advance, compensation area, mostly you'll be talking with these terminologies in advance compensation language. One is, if you are aware of this one, you should be able to understand what each advanced compensation component performs. Like that, you'll be able to take some decision related advanced compensation. The first one, I can say configurable grid. Configurable grid is nothing but a kind of, reporting tool used by the planner, compensation administrator, or HR administrator, and other security groups, which makes awards, and manage merit and bonus plan process. It's a kind of reporting tool used by comp administrator, HR admin, and other important security groups to make awards and manage merit, bonus, and stock plans. Configurability is one of the frequently used terms in advanced compensation language. What it does, and what kind of security groups that will be part of accessing this configurable grid, and the other one is controller. Have you heard these terms? Madyat, in your current support activities, what you're doing, controller, grid kind of things and all, have you heard this thing? I have heard configurable grid, not controller. We can talk about it, but I don't think I have heard that. The controller is nothing but mostly Compangist administrator will be having access to this one, which will be performing a kind of activity like controlling page in their inbox, which provide complete view of the process. Complete view of the process every time. Basically, the comp administrator will be performing this one where the compartment will have access to this control page in their inbox, which provides a complete view of the process. That is going on with that advanced compensation. Basically accessible by compartment, which will provide specific permissions to control page in their inbox. Controller is nothing but which is accessible by comp administrator, which will provide specific permissions to control the page in their inbox, which provides complete view of the process during this advanced compensation, which provides complete view of the process, and the other one is planner. Planner is one thing in which you'll be frequently hearing. In the planner is nothing but the individual who makes actual compensation awards. Individual can be manager, compensation partner, or any other defined security group who perform this activity. Person who makes comp awards could be manager, HR admin, not HR admin, comp admin, and any other security groups we can, and any other security groups which can be configured. We will get into our second chapter called Merit, Plan and Process. What we will do is here we will create merit plan and we will initiate the merit process to few of the employees and see whether these employees will be part of the merit process and all. Before we create merit process, what we need to have certain eligibility rules and certain compensation plans and all. We will create in a while once we talk something about merit plan. Merit plan, generally they generate changes to an employee base salary. Make changes to the base salary, and generally this merit plan can be based on amount based or person based, where the Workday merit plan does not guarantee an employee an increase in compensation. How we know it is configured is simply identifying an employee as an eligible participant when the merit process is run. When the merit process is initiated, the system evaluates all employees tracked in Workday, and any employees with the plan and their compensation will be included in this process. When you are entering this merit plan as an award, the planner is performing this activity kind of in a reporting person. The planner can enter a percent increase or amount. This process will be a kind of a consolidated merit process which you will be performing, because it not only you can initiate the merit process, but you can also include the bonus, stock promotion, commission or alliance award in this process. You also have an option to initiate this process separately, simultaneously also. Other options you may consider or include when pooling the factors such as employee and employee performance, and the employee performance as guidance for the planner, and then the awards for the direct reports who will be performing this activity when they are initiating the merit process. That's how we typically handle when you are initiating the merit process. Basically, merit plan can be amount based or percentage based. have you said no? I was saying why it takes couple of minutes to unmute. I have edited but not created because merit cycle, since I have joined, there is no merit cycle currently. You create merit plans only when there is a cycle. Basically, whenever you're creating a merit plan, the basic setup that you require is you need to have an eligibility rule. You need to have eligibility rule which specifies to certain group of people your merit applies when you initiate this one. You need to have an eligibility rule when you are setting up this merit plan. Probably we need to create one or two eligibility rules before we create this one. And also you can define merit plan profiles that can assign a percentage or different amount increase to a population of eligible employees as defined by a compensation eligibility rule where you'll be specifying that this group has to get this kind of compensation plan or kind of increment, and all know you'll be specifying that one. And the target percentage that you'll be specifying here is calculated using the employee's total base pay, and you can also select the apply merit increases to the total primary compensation basis for an employee using merit basis, managed basis total. When you're configuring the merit plan, the minimum checkbox that you need to create a plan and any merit plan requires is when a plan is subject to the statutory increases. This will enable workers associated with the plan to receive a minimum increase during the merit process. You can enable and override it to the all. These are the options what I'm talking about. You can enable an override option to saturate minimum at the time of merit pool configurations, and this will allow entry if an amount less than a statutory minimum. All override will enable you to perform some kind of evaluations, and the kind of options that we have when you're configuring a merit plan is the first. One is manage basis total. You'll be selecting this if you wanted to apply merit process to the total. That just one option that you'll be having and already creating merit plan and allow target override is one of the option that you'll be getting. We'll not be using every option that we have in the configuration part, but everything in a specific to the organization. But we'll be discussing all the options that are available here. Allow target override will permits you the entry of the target percentage of an individual employee assigned to this plan. This makes the individual target field available for entry on the whenever you are performing a request compensation change task and in compensation assignments for staffing events when you are using this plan. This permits the entry of that. you'll be doing this one and height target. Which will perform a target heights when you're doing the merit plan configuration. This is one of the options that you'll be getting. Or also, target percentage is nothing, but you know which will be coming. You know when you select your merit plan based on percentage. And generally, we'll be selecting this option when you will not be going with the amount based plan. One thing you know which you'll be getting whenever you select percentage based plan and reference currency is nothing, but you know which will be getting whenever you select a single currency. Reference currency will be getting and reference frequency whenever you wanted to have something related to, percentage plans. Whenever this workday wanted to use this frequency to calculate the actual cost of the bonus or in a minus of any currency fluctuations or not enough, you'll be selecting this one. For reference currency, you'll be giving the single currency when you have. All these are options when you'll be creating a merit plan. These are the mostly used options. Whenever you are using, this merit plan, but we have in a few more options. Probably we'll see whenever we are creating this merit plan. But before that, I think let's get into the tenant and try to create merit plan and see if how we know we can ensure the merit process. And all before that, we need to have as a prerequisite, we need to have some eligibility rules for taking this merit process to intended team members. I'll create one or two eligibility rules which I can use in this merit plan. I know I've created earlier, but don't remember who are all the intended team members. Organization. Organization and speeder organization. Organization compensation. I have taken one of the eligibility rules that I can use in merit plan where I am creating people who under this organization will be getting the compensation merit plan when I initiate this one. Now let's create a merit plan. Generally, we have a task called create merit plan. As we said, as I said, we'll be having both amount based and percentage based plan and selecting percentage based plan. And whatever options that I was talking about, you'll be seeing all those things here. I just given enough a specific, suppose that organization, I wanted to initiate the merit process. I just given supervisor organization based and target percentage selected to. And all these options, I said, whatever we're explaining here. Marriage managed basis total will be based on the employees, say no primary compensation, and a low to target or a day, which allows you to make any kind of an over to the kind of person that you'll be defining. All these are based on your kind of requirement that you'll be having. You'll be selecting this one. Eligibility rule. I'll be specifying whatever I've created here. Suppose your organization, one I've created, I'll be selecting this one, that this merit plan, whatever I'm specifying, will be applicable for this organization. I'll take whatever I have created here. It is a good deal for organization. Once I have the merit plan created, the next process is once you have the merit plan created, it to roll out the compensation process. Need to initiate the merit plan and roll out this compensation plan to the merit process. Now, in order to just talk a little about the rollout merit plan. Once you have merit plan created, you need to rolling out. A rollout merit plan is nothing But when you create a new compensation plan, it is necessary that you enroll the eligible employees to the plan, even though if an employee may be ineligible for any other plan. But if you are rolling out the compensation plan that you have created or the eligibility that you have created, and which will specify that employee should be eligible for a specific plan where a transaction is required to assign the employee to the plan. And when you're rolling out this compensation plan to the employee, there is a task in Workday called a rollout compensation plan to employees. Task we have in Workday which will allow you to add the compensation plan covering bonus plan, alliance plan to the employee compensation. The process uses the existing. We have a request compensation business process that will use this process since it is automatically generated without any approvals. We have certain criteria like step-by-step process. First step called create comp plans, eligibility rules, and rolling out in a compensation to employees. Once you define a compensation merit plan and you define eligibility rule, you will be rolling out this merit plan to eligible employees. And once you roll out in the merit process, you'll be running in a view compensation. And there is a process where you can view whatever any of rolled out to employees. There is an option to view whatever you have rolled out. You rolled out compensation process that you made in the most step. And finally, just check if your employees are excluded or included. You can validate whatever based on the eligibility rule that you have defined. And those employees got initiated for the merit process further. You know the merit plan. Whatever you have defined, that should have got initiated to them. Validate initiation of merit plan to the employees. Based on the eligibility rule. If you are aware of these steps, I think you should be able to manage the initiation of merit process and rolling out them and validating them. You can perform those activities in which we have created now eligible table will be initiating the process now based on the eligibility rule. These are the plans, which are part of rolling out the merit plans. Once you create the merit plans, you'll be performing all these activities to initiate the process to the employees. Now let me get into the tenant and perform the steps, what I was talking about. Created merit plans supervised or mission based. This one. And now I'll be initiating the merit process to perform that activity. When I say initiate is nothing but rolling out the plans to the employees. There is a task called if you're part of compensation team, you'll be getting an option called a rollout compensation. Compensation plans to employees. You need to take this one and initiate the process. Once we initiate this one, you'll be coming to this view compensation plan to the rollout process. I'll be taking this one. Basically, we'll be selecting the plan assignment as a kind of thing for this thing because we are initiating plan. We're assigning merit plan to the team members. That's why, we select the plan assignments and compensation plans. We have created a few plans earlier. Let me get into the and see what we have created. Last time when we created compensation plan, I'll be selecting those plans for that. I think I need to get into compensation package of your compensation package. I don't want to get in a create them. I'll just take the one that I've created last time when we're discussing about a regular compensation package. I think let's take this one. Compensation package. What is the name that we have given last time? I'm just trying to find the plan that I've created in our last session. I should be able to take those plans. Usage compensation eligibility. And this is the package that we've taken. These are the plans. Taking this one. Contingent plan. Now, the moment I click on this will initiate the merit process. Before that, I'll be selecting the supervisor organization that I've given. Eligibility rule that I've created. I'll be taking this eligibility rule which I've created for merit plan, that members of this eligibility rule will be initiated with the compensation process. Now, the moment I click on the compensation plan, rollout will be initiated to the employees of this eligibility rule who are in a part of this eligibility rule will get initiated. But we don't typically assign the compensation process to employees. It will take few seconds to complete. The process that we initiated is completed, and now we know we need to view the one that we have initiated. There is a task called View Compensation. All these things you know you'll be able to perform when you have a defined security. You're following with it. Yes, I'm following. But also, if you get admin access, you can anyway perform this. Basically, comp administrator will be having all this access. Even a partner auditor will also have. SS admin will also have it. Which admin? SS admin, System administrator will not be provided to everyone. System administrator, you know, the person who assigns the required access to different people. We call it as a system administrator will not have this access. System administrator is, if they are assigned with compensation administrator, they'll be able to. But what system administrator? System administrator is nothing but the security administrator. Security administrator will have permissions to assign security to any of the employee or to control any of the security that is happening in Workday. Tenant, that permissions in a secure system security configurator will be having. What security administrator will be doing? You'll be reaching out to security administrator that I'm part of compensation team. I don't have access to initiate the merit process. I need to have that process. The security configurator will be reviewing your access and will be checking the your business team that this access is intended for. This employee will be performing that kind of analysis. Once he gets approval from business that you need this access to initiate the merit process, he'll be assigning all the required permissions for you for initiating this thing. And one more thing, there are many tasks. Is there a repository where all the tasks and report names are there? Those tasks. Probably I'll list out there are only two tasks. One will be creating plan. And once you create a plan, you will be defining an eligibility rule. These are in outside of initiation. Once you have these two ready, you'll be initiating the process. You'll be collecting those plans and eligibility rules. I'll be giving that in document. I'll be writing those steps in the document. Basically, you'll be initiating the rollout process. Once you initiate the rollout process, you'll be viewing what you have rolled out. That's it. Now we know we're seeing this one. I think I processed. What is the name that I've given? Requesting rollout task for merit plan. I have this one. I'll be viewing whoever has got the merit plans, whatever it is we have assigned. Which employee has got those kind of plan assignments will be viewing here. Once you initiate this thing, you'll be coming here and they will be viewing whoever you know has been assigned with that merit plan. You'll be viewing here. Let's say you have rolled out to entire organization now and as part of annual review process. We'll be viewing here. You see here once the compensation process has been initiated, and when you're viewing, you'll be seeing here employees receiving this compensation plan. Whatever eligibility rule that we have defined, is listed with one employee, and that employee will be getting this compensation plan. Anthony Robert will be getting this compensation plan. And also, if there are any pending transactions with the employee, this will not be assigned, and those employees will be showing up here. Employees not receiving compensation plan. Those employees, let's say employees compensation, proposed compensation is in progress. Since the company is not finalized for that employee when they're initiating this merit plan, this plan will not be assigned to the template because it is. The reason is still the proposed compensation assignment is in progress for that employee. That is the reason why you're not able to see those employees. The system will show if there are around 3 to 4 members who are not receiving this compensation because the other process in progress. This will show all those 4 employees. And the reason for why it is not assigning the compensation plan, it will show you the reason. But for all the receiving employees, it will be showing all the receiving employees details here. Like how you're seeing here, it will be showing all those informations here. This is how we know you'll be initiating merit process and you'll be running the process. Once you create the merit plan, you'll be picking up the merit plan and you'll be configuring the eligibility rule for whom you wanted to initiate. And then you'll be seeing how you can validate whether this has been assigned or not. You'll be validating this one. In the view compensation rollout process, you'll be validating. You'll be giving those tasks in the document for you. Basically, we have performed. These are the steps that we have performed. We have created merit plan, created eligibility rule, rolling out the employee process to eligible employees through. With a task code. Once you roll out with this task, you'll be viewing what's happening here all. I'm going to millennials. If it's this, Rebecca, funerals of COVID, will it really shake you around and nobody? Today we'll see one more business case like compensation administrator when they're ready to initiate the merit process and configure the merit pool. And once they initiate that, when the process will advance to the compensation administrator to complete the kind of distribution pool step and then launch the process out to the managers. Managers are nothing but who are planners. You'll be initiating the compensation process now, where you'll be specifying all the effective dates, and as a compensation administrator, you will be defining the pools, merit pool, and all you'll be defining, and we'll be launching this to managers. will be. This is how we know generally every annual review process. You'll be defining some kind of merit pool. And then you'll be launching this to managers, and manager will be giving a kind of revised compensation to their employees in the organization. And that's how we know that typically the compensation process, merit process, will be initiated to employees as part of annual review process. To initiate the merit process, there is a direct task called Initiate Merit Process. Now getting into it. Now we have a couple of options. Probably they would have. Let's see what role options we have here in shared compensation review process. They have renamed, I believe. We have template effect to date, employee visibility rate, grid configuration. Let's see if we can create. I think they have renamed this. We have the same options, grid configurations and all. Earlier it was initiate merit process. Now I think they have renamed merit process into compensation review process. First, we'll create compensation review process template and have it attached to the merit process or review process that we'll be creating. Before that, I think we need to select the review process. They are all previously created, but we'll create this template now that you'll get to know what configurations that we'll be having here. Review template is nothing but which you'll be selecting. Whenever you're creating a review process, you'll be selecting the template, who all comes under this kind of template, like you'll be specifying some dates. Whenever an employee joins before this date, employee is eligible for the review process, and after this date should not be eligible kind of rules will be there. Those you'll be defining in compensation review process template, and this template you'll be calling in initiate a compensation review process, and you'll be attaching there. And then from there you'll be initiating that process to managers, and they'll be able to take that from there. every workday a task which are initiating, there should be a kind of template. Even for performance review process, whenever an annual review process has been initiated, that specific period will be selected. Let's say if per year we'll be having a performance annual review process that goes in the month of October. Before that, we'll be selecting that particular template for which particular period you're performing this review process. You'll be selecting that template and then you'll initiate that performance review process. Similarly, compensation also. Mostly these will be created by comp team only, not workday team. Comp team will be creating the process and all or some organizations will be relying on workday team to perform this kind of configuration support. Thanks and all. I'm taking the generic period timings. Generally, from June, a review process period starts, and most of the US-based organizations, they'll be performing all the review process in the month of October and November. I'm taking the process end date as the 31st of October, where in the November month they'll be getting all the revised compensation part and all once the process period end date. And when employee should be able to see the compensation change after November salary, let's say from December, they should be able to see the revised compensation from first week of December. We'll take the default one, but there are few things that people have created. I'm going with the default one that Workday provides and grid configuration. Before that, we'll try to create one grid configuration. I'm creating a grid for compensation review process. And just takes the template. You see here adjustment for business object. You're seeing this is used for all the compensation review process. If you're making any kind of compensation review process, all the changes, all the additions, all the removals that you're making will be sitting in the object called adjustment for business object. If you're making any kind of compensation review process, and probably if you wanted to report that generally, I said I'll be creating statements for compensation review process in my current organization. All those statements, all those review process will be sitting in adjustment for business object. Whatever the configuration that we are doing, Whatever initiation that will be doing will be sitting in adjustment for business object. Business object is nothing but which holds the data. Workday model is nothing. But if you talk something about relational database, language kind of things, like traditional software applications outside of Workday, like PeopleSoft as AP and all, will be creating all the process in a table. Will be defining some kind of items and will be having those items in a table. Table is nothing but which holds the data, in the form of fields. Similarly, in Workday, we have a concept called data model called business object, which will be holding the data in the form of business object. The primary business object, code adjustment for business object, which will be holding all the information related to compensation. All the changes revised to compensations and review process things and anything stocks that are getting changed to employees or base getting changed employees as part of review process will be coming in adjustment for business object. Adjustment for business object is an important one. Probably really whenever you wanted to report anything related to compensation change, the first thing that you need to consider is adjustment for business object. By default, we have not selected any business object here. Automatically, Workday has picked up the object called adjustment for business object. It means that adjustment for is a kind of ideal object that will be storing all the changes happening to the compensation process in the organization. Just this is an important thing. Probably, if you wanted to report something on the compensation process, this is what you will be using. Adjustment for remember this thing. I've taken compensation review process as a kind of field which will be storing all the values that we will be changing or will be in shading. Related to compensation changes, only one object is there. But there are other objects like compensation history, compensation basis kind of. There are a lot of business object related to compensation, but anything that goes with the compensation changes review process as part of review process. The only object which can be a kind of dedicated one which will be providing all the information related to compensation process is this one adjustment for. If you wanted to report something on all the compensation review process that has performed last year with all the changes and all, you have to use this process, this adjustment for business object. There is. We can go with the other objects also, but since you're making changes with the adjustment for a business object, that will provide you relevant information, accurate information. Through calculated fields, we can tweak the data and we can get from other business object also, but taking directly a business object called adjustment for business object will provide you accurate information related to compensation process. Calculated fields is different thing. You probably know if you'll create a calculated field based on the delivered field that you wanted to have. If you wanted to tweak something on delivered field, you'll be creating calculated field. I'll talk more on this during end of the session. It got refreshed on all the things has gone. Let's see if I can take any of the one that is already there. Process. Let's see what is configured in this one. It will be given as combination review process and for subtitling. Whenever you're initiating the compensation process, these are the titration that will be populated here. That will be populated whenever you're initiating. There are two things that you need to remember. One is current and the other one is proposed. When you see current thing, whatever employee is getting now, that will be under current field. Whatever you see as proposed nothing but whatever employee will be getting in future, which we are proposing. There will be two things you know mostly now. You will be getting this kind of understanding when you're dealing with reports. Your compensation statement may ask you what is current base pay, what is proposed base pay, and kind of things. If your report is asking, we'll be taking the proposed one As you know, the future one and current one as a whatever will be having the current compensation, will be getting that. I'll be selecting this base pay, proposed amount and list referenced currency. You'll have to attach your annual compensation review process template. I said for every performance review also, we'll be creating one template. Let's say for 2021 November, you are going for performance review process where annual compensation review will be part of that review process. Whenever you create annual performance review template, that template should be attached with the compensation review template. That both will get synced. The performance based on the rating. If you wanted to give some kind of additional compensation, you need to attach that compensation review process for that particular period that you have created. I'll just take you on random compensation appraisal review process template. I've created one template for compensation review process which can be used in our initiating review process. Generally, when you wanted to initiate any compensation process, there has to be a template which gives you a kind of information, the effective date and the visibility date, and whatever another great configuration that we've made. That is configured with all the compensation review process. And the performance rating review template has to be part of the review process template. And we'll be attaching that review process template to our initiating merit process. Whenever we are initiating the compensation process to managers or employees, we'll be attaching that process template to this. And that will be taking care of all the execution of that compensation review. Whatever you know, based on the effective date that we have defined, that will be executed accordingly. Whenever you're starting the period start date and whenever you want it to end, you'll be setting it no. You'll be seeing the notification part of probably whenever compensation or annual review performance process has been started. Although for some particular point of time, employees will be getting, please complete, submit your review process. This is the due date and managers, will be getting a kind of notification that this is a due date. Please submit your run this thing, kind of complete your review process. It's that we're doing in the template. And after that date, if manager is not able to complete within the date, then that will be not picking up in the template what we have created because we have given the date range rate. Period end date is October 31st and the period start date is June 1st. Between this period, whatever manager will be taking care of the review process for 31st of October. Your template, whatever we have created, will be picking up the data. Or else if manager is submitting the review process after 31st, your template, whatever we have created, will not be picking up. There will be a lot of those things also will be happening. Managers, they'll be saying we are not aware of this time. And we need to have our employees to be part of this review process and all. When such kind of request of Workday, team will be taking care of adjusting the dates, and they'll making that review process to be part of the template what we have created. That will be part of support activities we'll be seeing. Generally, for every year, for every process period, we'll be creating one review process template, and the review process initiation will be doing. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.